Welcome to the Wealth Juice Podcast, where we talk real estate, business, entrepreneurship, and building a better life. Living life on your own terms is a choice. We're bringing you the blueprint and success stories of those who are doing just that. We hope you enjoy the show. All right, welcome back to the Wealth Juice Podcast. I have two guests on here who know each other very well, and they're kind of a duo with their podcast, Bricks and Risk. I'll get into that in a little bit, but I have Tim Garrity, Sean Mooney joining us today, and I've developed a great relationship with both these guys, but I work hand in hand with Tim like literally every day on the agent side. If people are watching, you can see my real shirt. And Tim's wearing the real hat. So I just want to bring you guys on because you have such a unique story and like such a real estate adjacent. You both are working in the real estate space in kind of different ways. So we'll go one by one here. I'd like you both to introduce yourself. I'll start with Tim. But anyway, thanks for you guys coming on. I think this is going to be a fun show.
Absolutely. So quick background on me, grew up in suburban Philadelphia, about 5 minutes away from this guy. Went through the Catholic school system in the suburbs, grade school, high school, college, got to college. One of the first people I ran into when I was moving into college, again, this guy. We ended up pledging the same fraternity in college. I mean, we're still on a text thread with like fraternity brothers, like on a daily basis. So like, we have that backstory. And, when I got out of college is basically when 9/11 happened. So there weren't any jobs. My dad was a, full commission loan officer like his entire career. And I was waiting tables and he said, why don't you just come in and start learning how the mortgage business works? So full commission job. So it's not like I got an opportunity. It's just, I said, let me see if I can figure this out and make some money. And I did really well with it. I was able to parlay that into a management position with a builder, also in mortgages. And then when 2008, 2009 hit, I got laid off, newly married. My wife had an average job. I said, I'm just going to get my real estate license and figure it out. So I did. And just hustling my ass off for the first 5 years. Got a broker's license, started a residential real estate brokerage from scratch with 2 partners. Grew that to 50 agents and almost 100 million in volume in 2022. And one of my partners decided to leave. So I pivoted a year and a half ago again to a small focused real estate team, residential real estate team. So we represent buyers, sellers, tenants, landlords. We do development. So we flip homes and we reimagine buildings. And I lead and mentor agents. So this is part of the reason why Corey and I got together. So that's my story.
Love it. So we're going to tie you guys. Well, we already did tie you guys together a little bit with just like college. I don't even think I knew that about you, but Sean, just give us a little background on your story. Because the podcast has you guys like attached to the hip here, and you're interviewing entrepreneurs and investors, and it's like I've noticed that it's brought me closer to people that I need to know in Philadelphia specifically. So it's a little bit of a local vibe, but just give us some background on you.
Yeah. So similarly, grew up close to Tim in Glenside, which is a next town over. High school, college, locally, really a vanilla local story. Haven't wandered too far beyond that. LaSalle University with Tim, like he said. After college, I got a job in an insurance office in Conshohocken. And that was where I initially started in the business, cut my teeth, doing a little bit of everything. From there, worked in a all-state office locally for an agent, just kind of more learning a sales position type of role. And then eventually got to a point where I was like, you know what? I'm working mad hours, doing a lot, like a shit ton of work, killing myself. And I was like, you know what? If I'm going to pour myself into this, I might be better off just doing it on my own. And so 2013, I opened my own office. And ever since, just been grinding and trying to build and scale and trying to find new ways to do different things to help us grow. And right now I have a new office that I'll be moving into, but I'm in downtown Ambler, and I've been here since the pandemic in 2021.
Love it. Okay, cool. So for people, I don't know if you said it specifically insurance, but like property casualty insurance.
Property casualty insurance.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. So I want to bring this up because when we teach people people that are listening to the show, how to buy your first or next rental property, grow and scale your portfolio, there's a pillar that I talk about a lot, and it's building your team. And in building your team, agent, lender, accountant, contractor, handyman, attorney, insurance agent, property manager, I'm naming all these people that you need in order to grow your portfolio. So you guys are in these adjacent fields where Tim is in the development, flipping agent side, and Sean represents the insurance side of things. And then together you can build a network and a team to go, whether you're taking deals down together or referring it out, which leads me to you guys starting this journey together on this podcast. How did the idea for you guys to start this podcast come to be? And why do you invest time, energy, and effort into it? And either one of you can start. Maybe we'll start with Tim, just your take on it, because maybe it's different than why Sean thinks you guys are doing it.
It's always different, Corey.
Well, considering Sean loves to disagree, whatever I say will probably be incorrect. But the long story short is Mooney and I were both extremely avid podcast listeners / watchers. Without even knowing, we were both doing that all the time. But if I can backtrack a little bit, like when I got into residential real estate sales as an agent at the age of 30, Mooney was already, in insurance, but he didn't have his own brokerage yet. I got out, started hustling, building relationships, was doing some content marketing. And then like a couple years in, I started an organic networking group myself. That was right around when Mooney started his insurance brokerage, like right around the same time. So we just had there was a bunch of friends, shout out to Pete D'Amico, Matt Bells, Stephanie Knoll. I mean, there was just all these people that just got together and said, we're all kind of doing sales or marketing or running businesses. Let's just meet on a monthly basis and exchange leads. So I think that was when Sean and I got into in-person networking, but more on a controlled grassroots level. And we did that for 5 years. So fast forward to 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, we were BSing on the phone in the summertime, and we were just talking about business and podcasts. And I had been a guest on a couple podcasts, and he had said, you should consider starting one. And then we started having that conversation. I said, you know what? I would never do that. I wouldn't want to just talk to a camera myself. I think we should do one. You got the story. I got the story. You like podcasts. I like podcasts. We've been boys forever. We can spit when we want to spit. And why don't we talk about it? And then we just talked for a couple hours about what it would be like to start a podcast, who we would be speaking to, how we would do it. And then we just took a few months and met in person and just kind of hashed it all out. We didn't just say, yo, get a mic or open your laptop, I'll open mine, and we'll just start going. We really, really planned and dove into why we wanted to start a podcast and who we wanted to talk to and what the quality would be like and what the cadence would be like and what kind of topics we'll be talking about. We wrote it all out before we even recorded one word.
Yeah. So I think this is interesting because it's very, very different from when we started our podcast. Literally COVID hit April 2020 and I was the opposite. Rye wanted to plan it and I was like, dude, let's just share our story. Let's just start talking. People will hopefully start to listen. And then before you know it, it's growing. But I want to talk about the consistency of this because I tell people to start podcasts or I tell people to start sharing their story, building a virtual resume in 2025, 2026, how important it is because people throw out business cards, but they remember faces, names, and stories. And that's why I think that doing this is so important. But you guys just passed episode 100. You're at 102, at least I'm looking right here. Yep. And that's 2 years. You do it every week. That's 2 years of podcasting. 90% of podcasts don't make it past episode 12. So talk to me, and maybe Sean, you can speak to this about the consistency and why you felt it's important, because a lot of people don't realize this unless you're Chris Williamson or Joe Rogan. Your podcast specifically is not bringing you direct dollars. You're not getting an ROI on recording the podcast, but the ROI on the relationships is infinite, in my opinion. So curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah. So a couple things that you hit on about why we did it. We both loved it. I said in an episode at one point, everyone, if you're a business owner, you should have a podcast. And I didn't mean that specifically to be every business owner should have a podcast. But more what I meant was you need a visual content platform where you have video of you online talking about your business. One avenue might be the podcast, might be an actual podcast, right? You might be the social media personality that can just throw on TikTok and you can get your business out there on a visual platform, explaining who you are, what your specialty is, and why you're so great, right? So it doesn't have to be the podcast itself, but if in this new way of business going forward, it's really a requirement, it seems, or it feels like, to have video incorporated into your marketing plan in the year 2025, 2026. So I'll start with that, right? And I think because of that importance and because Tim and I both know the value of it, we elected to do the podcast for our businesses. So that's what I would say with that.
The podcast is your podcast and my podcast is the only reason that the three of us connected.
Yep.
I would have no way of meeting other people,
Nope.
other individuals, unless there was a mutual benefit of like, you guys come on our show, you share your story. You have a unique story to tell. I go on your show, I have a unique story to tell. And now Tim and I text every single day. He probably hates it, but I like it. You know
Totally
what I mean?
true.
Yeah. So we are talking about, because we are really in a partnership right now of like, we help people buy, sell, invest. We have a number of deals that we're doing together, and none of that would have happened. I wouldn't have been able to get my start in the agent business had I had not connected with Tim. And maybe so there's some vice versa there of like growing your guys' podcast. And there's just such a mutual, it's a win-win for everyone who wants to come on a podcast. I know we're on it's like the inception of podcasts that we're talking about right now, but I think it's important to bring this up to people of like, why do it? Now, maybe you don't feel like you can talk in front of a camera. Go listen to episode 2 that I did, or episode 1, and tell me if I sound like I should be talking in front of a camera. I sound like an absolute moron. So I think that the longer you do it, the better you get, right? But I'm curious about, you guys, your take on bringing value to the marketplace. You're not asking for anything when you have this podcast. You're bringing value and you're sharing stories and dot connecting, if you will. And maybe, Tim, if you want to speak to like how that aspect of the podcast has kind of changed your outlook, or have you done business differently since Bricks and Risk started?
Yeah. I mean, here's what I think it comes down to. And this hits home on what Mooney was talking about. Like, you should have a podcast in like a broad sense. You talking about the relationship building through a podcast. Here's what a podcast does. It allows you to build credibility through the know, like, and trust model. Someone's got to get to know you. Then they figure out whether or not they like you. There's plenty of people who listen to our podcast who don't like me and don't like Sean. They're just like, it's not, I mean, more people to Sean, but it's just not like, it doesn't resonate. They're like, maybe they don't like the sound of my voice or the way I look or I dress or the jokes that I crack. It doesn't matter. They're just not going to do it. But the ones who do get to know me, they will eventually at some point be like, oh, this is my kind of guy. They get to like me. And then the more they hear me speak through the podcast, then they start building trust. This is exactly what I did when I started in real estate, was starting a blog. The only difference is that was a written word. There was no visual. There was no audio. We're not in that world anymore. I'm not saying don't do a blog. I have a blog, but the blog doesn't have the same effect as it does today. Blog is almost just like an ancillary, like behind the scenes thing that supports everything else that I do. So it does the know, like, and trust. You are literally 24/7, 365 building credibility with audiences in and around your market and all over the world. As much as you don't want to believe that, it is a fact. Anyone in the world can look at Bricks and Risk or Wealth Juice, and they can watch and listen. That also brings me to kind of like, I think there's some people that are doing podcasts today that are just like, no, I just do audio. I feel like that is such a missed opportunity. I don't care if you don't like video. You're already speaking into a microphone. Like, put the camera over here if you don't want to look at it, but record your facial expressions, your body language. Like, let someone put a face with a name. Like, it is so important to have a visual today. And then when you do the visual, here's the best part. You can put it all over social media because you have more content than you even know what to do. You don't even know what to do with all this content. There's so much of it. You can DIY it and still have endless content, or you could do it in a studio like Sean and I do and get endless content. And when you're doing it, know, like, and trust through the podcast model, and then doing know, like, and trust through the social media model, I mean, it's like, who are you not hitting in today's world that consumes content? You're just staying in front of like everyone, and they're just getting to know you better.
I like how you mentioned the 24/7 model, because the antiquated, you still need to do this, by the way, but the old way is you go to networking events with a name tag and you hand out business cards, and everyone's kind of there trying to do the same thing, and it's awkward and it's weird. But now when you're asleep and it's, it's 9 a.m. your time and 6 a.m. someone's just waking up, they're listening to your podcast and they're in California or whatnot. People are getting to know, like, and trust you on a one-way sided conversation without you having to do work and go shake all of these individual hands. Now, like you said, people might not like you, and that's okay too. But I've noticed this in this world of, like, there are people that are more my vibe, that resonate with me, that will be like, oh, I want to work with Corey in whatever capacity that is. And there are people that like, no, there are people that do the exact same thing that I do at a different level, just differently, and that people will resonate with them. But unless I'm speaking to the masses and getting my voice out there, my name out there, no one knows who you are. And Alex Hormozy says this. He says, if you don't have 1 million followers on Instagram, no one knows who you are. Now, that's him speaking from basically almost a billionaire standpoint. But I think the point is that you think the leads and the people are not out there. You just don't know enough people. And I think the podcasting and social media is a great way to, like, really put your message into the universe, as long as you're authentically you and not trying to pretend to be like someone you're not. So I love it. And I love Bricks and Risk. And you guys introduced me to more of the in-person aspect of this and how important that is to, like, tonality and getting in front of the people, of your guests and everything. So I loved recording with you guys. So
hold on, let me jump in. Go
ahead, Sean. Go ahead, Sean.
You're talking about 24/7, right? Content is running in the background while you're sleeping. It's evergreen content, right? Like, it's searchable. People can find you because they're looking for a certain thing. Real estate. I need a landlord, realtor that specializes in Philadelphia, and they might just be landing on your content, right? So it's without a doubt a marketing play of evergreen content that just continues to produce leads, cold leads, warm leads, whatever they may be. But there's a connection there where people are looking for something and can stumble upon your content and become a potential client.
Yeah. I mean, it's perfectly said. It's so true. And I think that the challenge that I think some people look at it is like, you don't need to be a content creator. If you're watching this, I'm raising up my right hand, and then in my left hand, I need to be the business owner doing the work. It's like you do both at the same time, and you use the content as capturing the work that you do. So you can't replace one with the other. You're not like, oh, I need to be a content creator and go create content. It's no, just record what you're already doing as your business owner, which leads me to, like, talking about, Tim, I want to talk about the development that you're doing. And you turned a school into an apartment building. And a lot of your content now is like, I'm showing the world, as opposed to the 37 people that I have on my follow-up list and that I want to share this with. Now I can share it to thousands of people, again, tying the content to the business. But for people that haven't heard this about you, tell me about this development project, which I think is really cool. And then, we'll continue the conversation from there.
Yeah, I think before I dive into just our new development, let me tell the story of how I even got into development. Was really like, when I became a real estate agent, I was very interested in just like the investment side. Not because I'm a numbers guy. I just like to build things. I like to create. I had like kind of like a little bit of an artist thing going on when I was young. I could draw. I could do all sorts of stuff. I love music. And so when I got into real estate and I'm trying to figure out, like, well, what's my lane? Like, where am I going? I said, look, I want to help out my friends and family. That's like number one. I want to be like the go-to resource for my sphere of influence. But if I'm going to meet new clients, I want to meet clients who are like buying properties and flipping them, buying properties and re-renting them, or buying properties and like reimagining them into like different things, like old warehouses or skyscrapers or schools like I did. And then as I got into that game, I was just like, it kind of like joined with my blogging. Like I was talking about Philly a lot and neighborhoods and like what was going on. So I would just like naturally meet investors like through my blog, and ended up meeting a really great investor who's a very close friend today. And they just said, hey, we just rehabbed an old barn in Roxborough and it's 3 units. Do you do renting? I said, yes. They're like, can you rent those units? I said, yes, no problem. I got them more rent on each unit, rented all 3 in less than a month. Then they started like fixing other properties in the neighborhood. Can you rent this? I said, well, what about flipping it? And then they said, well, how much could we get? First flip that I ever did for them, I made them a ton of money without them even realizing they could flip it. So I just like was so interested in development. Like I knew my stuff. Like I knew all the avenues. I was just into like helping investors like make more money and like get better at what they're doing. So as I was working with this father and son team for like 5 years, I helped them acquire and flip about 25 properties. And then after doing that 25 times, they kind of said to me, well, why don't we do one? This is like 5 years ago. And I said, okay, well, like how? Tell me what you want to do. So after they gave me the structure, and me, Ryan, and Andrew Janos were running Copper Hill, we just said, yeah, like, let's do it. So then we did a bunch. Then even when the partnership ended at Copper Hill, like Ryan and I continued to maintain that team, that investment group. And when my daughter was baptized, this is like over 6 years ago, I met the priest. And at the time I wasn't developing. I tried to help a client buy the property and it just didn't work out, but I never stopped talking to them. And eventually they said, yeah, we're ready to sell it. And I said, cool, I think I'll buy it. And we just like, it was nothing like we had ever done. And it took years to like structure it, raise the capital, plan it, neighborhood groups, historic commission, commercial financing, all these things I didn't know. But the reason I give that backstory is like I had like 10 solid years of investor agent experience before I ever decided to like flip a home myself. And I think that's highly valuable because I think a lot of people get into home flipping. They just think it's all numbers. And it's like, you need relationships, you need neighborhood knowledge, you need listing knowledge. Like it's way more intangible stuff that goes along with that. And then, yeah, so we bought the school. It was defunct. We turned it into 16 upscale apartments. And now we're renting them out and I'm doing all the leasing myself. I go there a couple times a week. I'm showing all the tenants. I'm locking them up and I'm getting the highest rents I can possibly get so that I take care of our investors.
You mentioned something, the first sentence. You said, I met these investors through my blog post. Right? That's what you said. So I again, it kind of, I didn't intentionally mean for this to happen, but it went full circle back into now blog posting is a form of content, right? So you put your message out there, you met these people, you built a relationship. Doesn't mean somebody has to wait 10 years to start flipping, but it's correct. Like, I know people that try to jump in head first. And by the way, I think that's way, 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 way better than sitting on the sidelines and trying to be, and being scared. So regardless, but there are people that jump in head first and then they don't have a mentor. They don't have anyone to turn to. They don't know what they're doing. And they kind of learn the hard way. And I think that school hard knocks is fine because you'll figure it out as long as you keep going. But you took your time. You got to know people. You planted seeds. And it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, you bought this school direct from, you said the parish? Like, how did that work?
Yeah,
you went right to him?
All the churches, if you're not Catholic, all the churches in and around Philadelphia belong to an organization called the Archdiocese of Philadelphia. And that's like the overarching group that manages all the parishes. And some of the parishes are just churches now, and some of them are churches and schools. And this was one where the parish was okay, so people still go to church there, but the school didn't survive. There just wasn't enough students. There was like too many Catholic schools. So the school just was basically like rotting. I mean, I hate to say that, but it was just like a vacant building. It was just rotting. And when we showed interest, we had to go directly through the Archdiocese, which is like a huge headquarters downtown. There's a VP of finance. Like, you don't just say like, here's an agreement of sale. Like, we would love to buy this. Like, no, there are politics involved. There are, business decisions, boards, parishes. Like, so it was a very complicated process, but super humbling just to go through. And I think also too, like me growing up in the Catholic school system, it really made me appreciate like being at this stage in my life and being like, you know what, like I can help the parish, because as soon as we bought the school, the money goes to the parish, and now they can have a stronger church because of it. Not only that, their campus looks better now because we polished up the school. And now that I'm like leasing the units, like I'm very careful about finding like good people who appreciate the school, who understand the church, who appreciate the character and the architecture and the history of everything as like a benefit to moving in. Like I'm not comparing myself to the apartment building down the street, because that it's just different. And when I meet people that actually like all that, they're like, where do I sign? Like, I want to live here. And I've told tenants, I'm taking them through the building, I'm telling them the story. They're like, this is unbelievable. I'm like, look, you should hear the story, appreciate where you live. Like, we put a ton of time, effort, and work into this. We raised money through friends and family, and we worked our asses off just to get to this point now where I'm taking you through. And I haven't made a penny. Like, this is like 6 years in the making. And I think that is highly valuable.
Hey, let me pause the episode real quick. Let me know if this sounds like you. You're making six figures, you're climbing the corporate ladder, investing in your 401k and your Roth IRA, and maybe even a brokerage account. But deep down, you're asking yourself, is this really it? Like, am I just going to do this thing for the next 30 years and hope to retire in my 60s? That was exactly us just a few years back. We were curious and excited about real estate, but overwhelmed and without a roadmap. If you fast forward to today, we've built a portfolio of over 80 cash flowing units and grown our net worth to over $2 million. We've made it our mission to help busy professionals like you take that same leap and start building generational wealth for yourself and your family. That's exactly why we created the Wealth Juice Inner Circle, a private real estate investing community designed to help you get your first rental property under your belt in as little as 90 days. Inside, you'll get direct access to us, our full investing network, private off-market deals, and our exact playbook, and a community of investors who are closing deals every single week. That first property changed everything for us. We always talk about it. It was the true foundation for building generational wealth. And honestly, if we had access to something like this when we first started, we'd be 10 times further along by now. So if this sounds just like you, click the link in our show notes and schedule a call with me. Yes, me. I'll be taking the calls. We'll go over your goals, map out a plan, and get you ready to close your first deal. Let's get it. It is. Ryan and I own upwards of 95 units now. And some of those were just the two of us starting out, but now we're doing what you did in terms of we're general partners on an 18 unit, on a 7 unit, another 7 unit, a 10 unit. And we're closing on an 8 unit next week. And I always tell this to people when they hear it from a distance, they're like, oh my God, like we're building all this equity, but it's not like we're rolling in cash flow, right? What's happening is that we're planting these seeds. We're pulling money together from friends, family, and people that know, like, and trust us, and they're getting paid back first.
Correct.
So like you said, it took you 6 years or however long to start to develop that to start to get paid on it, right? And I think that is what people miss about real estate investing and long-term investing, is that we're going to be, and we're already starting to like uptick the cash flow. Like, I can see the ball really rolling, but for 3 or 4 years, we've been planting seeds and shovels, literally, like putting all of this together, paying back limited partners. Mm-hmm. So I think that the patience of this game and being able to have the foresight to know what's coming is really what shakes most people out. And they're like, there's got to be a quicker way. I got to make more. Like, there's got to be a quicker way to do this. And it's like, maybe there is, but if you're going to be in the real estate investing game, thinking about it long term, I think it's the only way. I really do.
It's very similar to the rate that you talked about with the burnout rate of realtors, right? Like, if you get into it with the expectation you're going to be killing it after the first year, like, you're probably going to be disappointed in where you are after that first year, because it's a 3 to 5 year game where you need to get the experience and the knowledge and put all those pieces together to then become fruitful after 5 or 10 years. And if you don't have that like ability to see the road downward, you're always going to come up short.
Yeah. And I think, would you equate that? I think this is kind of a rhetorical question, Sean, but like equating that to the insurance business.
Exactly.
Because I know from I have one of my best friends is a financial advisor. And I always tell him, we're both, I think he's 33, I'm 34. I always tell him, man, like you did the work in your 20s, like that's when you built, because none of your 20-year-old friends have money. None of them. Now you're in your 30s, right? Your 30-year-old friends are starting to have money and you're working with 40 and 50-year-olds. And like that game, along with the insurance game, because it can be recurring, starts to build on and it starts to compound. And I know I'm not speaking about you, but I know 50, 60, 70-year-old insurance agents who are chilling because they built this 20-year runway of people that trust them and they don't go anywhere else. So I'm curious if you could speak to the insurance business, not about the money-making aspect, but I'm like that can be part of it, but I'm curious on like what you've done over the past few years to try to plant those seeds. Because again, business is business. I don't think it's really much different than being a realtor or being an investor. Talk to us about the experience of trying to build your business, really from the ground up is what it sounds like.
Yeah. So in most scenarios or most cases, when you elect to say, hey, I'm going to start an insurance office, right? 9 times out of 10, you're either buying a book of business.
Like from a State Farm or something like that?
Yeah, whoever.
Yeah.
Or you're getting seeded accounts, right? So because nobody has the ability to then just to start from zero, right? But when I did it, I always thought that the best way to do it was to be an independent agent and not really connected to any one specific carrier or another. It's like, I want to be independent. I want to control my book of business. I want to do it my way. And that's great, long term, because in 20 years, you have the ability to do what you want. You could sell your book of business. You could acquire a book of, there's so many avenues down the road that you have at your disposal. But the hard part for me was that like first year, 2 and 3, starting from zero, literally no income at all, 0. So I think just as it works in real estate, where you have to make the commitment in year 1, you're probably not going to make money outside of a few irregular circumstances. You really have to have that, let's call it marathon mindset, that you're going to put that work in the first few years in the hopes that it does snowball, it does compound. And after 10 years, you're going to be in a much better position than you would have ever been previously.
I think you guys have the blueprint down pretty well. I mean, Ryan and I are business partners and we do I would say, he would probably say it's too much. We do so much business together. We have our mentorship program. The only thing that's different right now is I'm an agent and he's not, but we buy all our real estate together as general partners. We run our social media together. So we do our business together and then have the podcast together. But you guys have more of an interesting
dynamic.
Dynamic, because you're like, okay, Sean is in the insurance world and Tim's in the real estate world, but the overlap is insane. So if anybody's listening, I would highly recommend, everyone asks me about partnerships all the time. And I say, I love partnerships. I'm in so many of them, but it's not about the adjacency or I keep using that word, but it's not about the I'm an integrator and he's a visionary. It's the trust has to be the number one thing that comes before any of that. So Ryan and I have that, but I don't know that we're perfectly aligned, integrator, visionary. We both kind of overlap there. A long-winded way of saying, if you're in a certain sphere and you have another person that that's in another sphere, you guys starting this podcast together is you come from you have different personality types, but you come from different, you can hit it from both angles.
That's a good way to put it, Corey.
No, really? We're different? No.
A little bit.
And you guys have this banter that I think really works. But my point in saying all this is that if you can be an agent and a developer and you can have an insurance broker or insurance agent and you guys can talk about the different ways that you do business, it gets you in the right rooms with the right people. So if anyone's listening, you should think about that and okay, I want to start a podcast. Should I do it alone? Yeah, you could do it alone, but it's cool to have a dynamic where you're able to meet new people together and you can plug and play. So Yeah, I don't even know if there was a question in there, but I just wanted to point that out. I think that's
Well,
important.
there is a yin and a yang to it, right? I mean, just as you and Ryan are a little bit different, you guys have different traits or personalities, or what you guys are best at. Is Tim and I are very much like that with the podcast, and it doesn't matter if it's real estate and insurance, or real estate and mortgage, or real estate and home inspection. Like, if you have someone that kind of aligns with you with a similar mindset, where you're like, hey, if we do this together, we can really, you can help me and I can help you.
Right.
And we can be a lot better off doing this side by side than me just trying to go at this by myself.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly said. Now, it leads me to like, what are your goals with, whether it's business, whether it's with the podcast? I mean, you tell me, maybe we can go to Tim, like what's Bricks and Risk hit 100, and you're at 102 episodes. You do it once a week, or you release them once a week, I should say.
Yep.
What does 26 look like? What does 2027 look like? Like, do you have a goal with it? Do you have a certain vision? I know like one of the things I want to talk to you about that we'll talk offline is about hosting events, because I have this innate network in Philly and New Jersey. Now, people join our community from all over the place because I have a vast network across the country, but like it's pretty tight knit around here. So I want to get into that space, and you do it really, really well. So I'm curious about, does that play into your goals? What are the goals with Bricks and Risks and business and all that?
Yeah. And I think what we've learned in the 2 years, like when we started, we had reasons to do it. I always say there's 3 reasons to do it. Timmy G's top 3. So we had get more business, not Shawnee P's top 3, Timmy G's. Get more business, meet more people, make more relationships, and help and give back. Like people will listen and watch and learn something and go apply it and then gain something from that. That's why they're listening and watching. That's why Sean and I love podcasts, because we love learning things and applying them and testing things and trying things and opening our minds. Like that's why podcasting is great. So that's why we did it. Now, as we've gone through it, a little over 2 years of just like talking about it, we meet once a month. And when we meet once a month, we talk about where are we going? Like, what are we doing? What are we focused on? And one of the big things we learned probably after about a year of doing it is we started realizing we were like organically building a community similar to you guys. So we said, all right, well, if we got a community, let's go back to our organic networking days where we would just get together and just shake hands, break bread, whatever the hell you want to call it. Like people call it all different things. And we just said, let's have a happy hour, a Bricks and Risk happy hour. We invited a bunch of people, like 20 some people showed up. Different people are meeting different people. We paid for it. It wasn't super expensive. We did that for 2 hours and we left. Then we're like, that was awesome. So then we did another one. Okay, let's do it in the city this time. The first one was in the burbs. Same deal. Then we said, all right, well, let's do maybe like a networking breakfast. And you were there for that. We're like, let's go a different angle. Maybe it's harder for people to come out at night because of kids and activities. So let's do something during the workday where a lot of these business owners can come. So then we did that. So I think really what's happened is like, as we meet monthly, we wanted to build community and we are building a community. So that's happening. We're always still focused on the 3 reasons why we did it. And then because since we started day one, we started doing it in a studio, as you know, recording a podcast in a studio costs money. Like we don't need to go out and buy the equipment, but going into a studio, you're either paying per episode or per month. We pay per month. So it costs X amount of dollars to produce the show. Now, after having sponsors last year, we locked up our sponsor for all of 2026 that basically, for the most part, pays for the entire podcast now. And that was like a goal in 2025. Like, okay, we're investing money. Yes. Have we both gotten deals out of it? Yes. Have we met people? Yes. Have we helped people? Yes. Are we building community? Yes. Okay. How do we actually pay for the show? Get a sponsor. Have we done that? Yes. So now we're at a spot where it's kind of paid for. We're still getting business out of it. All the other great things are happening. And then we don't know where it's going to go. Like, I think, we have tons of ideas and we have some things that we're going to be doing in 2026. So stay tuned. But I think it's really like, as you go through it, pretty much, if you're serious about a podcast, it's like starting a business. You constantly have to be looking at it, reevaluating it, like tweaking it, like coming up with ideas, spending money, testing things, just like listening to other shows. You're like, yo, they're doing this. We should do this. And I think the more you treat it like a business, it's not to say, as you said in the beginning, it's not like we're trying to like make money off the podcast, but because I have a real estate business and Sean has an insurance business opportunities naturally just come to both of us through the podcast. So we kind of are making money off the podcast. And now that we have a sponsor, now we're paying for the podcast. So it's like, it is just like a lot of upside right now. And we just did, we'll talk about it maybe toward the end. We did a guerrilla marketing in-person campaign just this week. And that was friggin' awesome. Like, we were talking about it for months and it worked and it was great. So we'll see where that goes.
I saw you guys dressed up, looking pretty snazzy. So that was cool. If you want to use that word, I don't know if maybe that's
Mooney would say normal. I would say different.
Yeah, but we'll continue to do that. Community is such a big part of kind of why we started and why we, what we try to execute on and what we try to get out of it. So doing events for us just seems natural. Tim and I, just by our own personalities, are always trying to connect people in different ways. And that live in-person event just seems to work for us in terms of extending or furthering the connections within our network. So just from that standpoint, not even for us, really. It's just kind of
we're already connected with everyone.
It's just it's just another way of helping people by way of connecting.
Whether you're a new or experienced landlord, one of the biggest hiccups that people run into that prevents them from scaling their portfolio is lack of organization. And most people think that they're going to be fixing toilets at 2 a.m. Because of that lack of organization. They're going to be getting calls from tenants and tenants are going to destroy their house. One of the things that fixes that completely is easy landlord forms. When you're self-managing property, staying organized is one of the most important things that will allow you to scale. Easy Landlord Forms has tenant screening services, state-specific lease agreements, online rent payment systems, and over 500 landlord forms so that you keep everything in one hub, scale your rental portfolio with ease, and most importantly, make landlording and real estate investing as passive as it can possibly be. So go to easylandlordforms.com and you can use the code WealthJuice, which will give you 20% off any order. Yeah, I think it's brilliant. I think it's I'm glad that you guys are continuing to do it, and I love going to those events because there's something about going to a networking event is very different than hosting a networking event. When you host it, there's actually the pressure to me is kind of off of you. You don't have to feel like you have to run around and meet people. It's like, well, there's an easy starter conversation of like who you guys are because you're hosting the event. So I want to get into that because I'm starting to get. I don't think recognize is necessarily the right word, but people see me out and they're like, I think I've listened to your podcast. I think I've seen your page. Like it's cool. I'm like, I got to bring this to the in-person world. And I just want to make one more point about the content before we wrap up the show. I think when you're at an event and you hand out a business card and no one knows who you are, it doesn't matter to me what the business card looks like or how cool it is or what it's shaped. They're all the same thing that get put in the same pocket that goes into the washer and the dryer without even getting thrown out. They forget about it, right? So my point is if you guys can say, hey, actually, I always do this, and it's not even on purpose, but I'm like, I forgot my business cards. I don't even have them. Why don't you here's my Instagram and here's my podcast. Go if you want to learn more, check it out there. And then, we have a bunch of followers now, so they see it and they're like, oh, like you have 2,000 posts. You've been doing this for a long time. Like you have a professional looking bio, you have a headshot. It serves as a upgraded business card on steroids. So if you guys can point people to your podcast, I just think it's a new frame of thinking that people need to, everyone's scrolling on their phones anyway. So instead of being the consumer all the time, become the monetizer or the creator and really bring the value to people. And then that is how you're going to get shown to more eyes.
Corey, would you believe us if we told you that we went to Atlantic City this past weekend? We were dressed like fools and we were trying to get as many connections and conversations as we possibly can. And people would come up to us and say, hey, what's the deal with you guys? And we literally printed business cards for the podcast and had QRs on them to have them scan and go right to our YouTube page.
The question was, would I believe you? Yes. The answer is yes. I believe you. Yes, because I think that now that they see, and this takes some curation, guys. It's not just like like you said, you didn't just throw this together.
Yeah.
You have, okay, what does my YouTube page look like? What does my podcast look like? Is it professional album art? Do I look presentable? Because I'm not saying that you just throw something together and be like, oh, go listen to my podcast. And it's like just your logo and no one can, you got to see people's faces. That's what personal branding is. Whenever people ask me about personal branding, I say, get your logo out of here. Nobody cares what your logo looks like. Everyone wants to see your face. They want to see who you are. So if you're posting on Instagram, or if you're talking about your podcast or you're on your podcast, share your story. Like share you and your personality. Let it shine. Let it flow, because people will resonate with that. And so yeah, I can believe it. And I think I saw. I don't know how you guys. Where'd you make this garment of clothing?
Oh my gosh!
We'll share the link. We'll get you the link.
Yeah.
But
Mooney is like the king of curating his own outfits. He's done this for weddings, his own wedding, his brother's wedding. He wears these tuxedos from like 1975 with ruffles, and he just shows up because that's just who he is. He's just a funny, like, he wants to hang out. He wants to have a good time, wants to meet people. And when we went to Atlantic City, true story, he was FaceTiming me through his iPad. And, he's like, "You ready for this?" And then he hits the video.
You didn't even know.
No,
you didn't know any of it. That's right.
I knew nothing.
Yeah.
So he hits the video, and he's wearing this Kelly green suit with a Bricks and Risk jacket, pants,
tattooed,
tie, and vest. So 3-piece suit with the Bricks and Risk logo all over it. And I was like crying, laughing. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, dude, we're going in like 3 weeks. I need to order one." He's like, "Go right here." I look at this website. I'm like, what? Where did you find this thing? So I order one. It gets here like days before we go. We put on these outfits. We print out 500 business cards. We bring 2 camera guys, and we just roll into the largest real estate convention in the U.S. and just start meeting people. We're shaking hands. We're giving them cards. We're telling them what we do. We're like, "Yo, you want a microphone? We'll talk right now." And we're just recording content. I mean, it was guerrilla marketing 101, and all we were doing was trying to drive people to our show. And then they could get to know us.
Let me just mention this here. So I have I just love what you guys are doing, because it's not that I'm afraid of putting on a blazer and pants. It's not that I don't want to do that, because I will do it. It depends on the atmosphere, right? But like, I'm so much better myself in a t-shirt and jeans and just being myself. And I always think to myself, if people, and I think this is like kind of the new age, maybe like Gary V way of thinking, but I'm like, if they judge or they don't want to have a conversation with me because they don't like that I'm not fitting the box, this is why the corporate world just kind of like, I get shivers up my spine. Then I'm like, I'm not meant to do business necessarily with those people if they judge me or they're like that, because how many people were there suited up, shirt and tie? And that's their personality, by the way. They should be who they are. I'm just saying, you guys showing up, Tim and I, we go to showings in t-shirts. Sometimes we wear hoodies. Sometimes we will put on, I'm not saying we're allergic to a collared shirt. I'm just saying that like those people will resonate with you and they won't care. They'll actually like the fact that you're a little bit different. Now, I know you guys aren't wearing Kelly green tattooed suits everywhere you go, but it's an icebreaker to be like, this is kind of like fun and this is who our personality is. And you're going to get a lot more traction that way than just showing up in a blazer and a white shirt and trying to be vanilla man, And I think there's a lot to be said for that, in my opinion.
Well, it's taking a different approach, and you're going to find that like you get in those scenarios, even if it's like you go to a networking event and you are the guy that's wearing a t-shirt. I feel like a lot of times, as much as it works against you because there's certain people that are like, wow, what's this guy? I really do feel that like there's a gravitational pull sometimes that works in reverse of that. And so if you're comfortable being you, more times than not, that's going to work for you rather than against you.
Yeah, and also let me caveat by saying that there's still a presentable nature that you need to have with yourself when you wear a t-shirt and jeans. I'm not saying that it should be a ripped shirt and you look like an idiot. I'm just saying that like
slovenly.
You want to be you. And I think business is done people to people, and the more that you're you, the more that you're going to find people that resonate with you. So continue to be yourself, and I think that's the story. And some people might disagree with that, and that's totally fine. I'm just not in that corporate suit and tie environment as much anymore, and I'm glad, because it just doesn't fit my personality style. So I feel like I'm maybe preaching to the choir as I'm talking to two guys wearing hats.
Yeah.
So.
And one of the best guest lines that has ever come out of interviews on Bricks and Risk was, "Your vibe attracts your tribe." And
Josh Buchter.
Yeah, Josh Buchter, Wolf of Broad Street. And it's just like, do it. Even when we were doing like the podcast when we first started, we're like, we both kind of dressed like we dressed, but then like Mooney was dressing like a little bit more professional. And then after like a handful of episodes, he started coming in like wearing hats, rocking the mustache, wearing bizarre shirts. I'm like, okay, now this is the Mooney I know. So, all right, you finally arrived. And even to me, I'm dressed differently. And I think now we just look at it as like, look, like I said, if you don't like the way we look or the way we talk or the way we act, you're just not going to listen or watch. And that's a good thing. You're not wasting your time and we're not wasting ours. If you listen and watch and you're like, man, I like these guys, they're relatable. If we're relatable to you, you are going to listen and watch every time we drop something. And we know people that do this and they talk about it and they love it and we're helping them. And that is, again, one of the main reasons why we did it.
This is an episode that's a case study on, you don't have to think or be like, I'm an influencer or a content creator to help drive your business forward. And I think that if you can just remove that from your sphere. And I like, my sister's actually an influencer. That's how she makes money. She works with brands. So I get there's like a stigma there, that's not what I'm telling people. I'm not saying negate your business to be an influencer.
Corey, let me throw this out. This one just blew our minds the other day. Our podcast is like more of a localized podcast. We're on the podcast platforms. We do videos, so there's a video component to it on YouTube. We talk about real estate and insurance and things around those businesses. We just clocked in last month at 20,000 views on YouTube for the last 30 days. And so like, you don't need to be an influencer to like get some traction online, some viewers that's going to provide you some leads and connections and build your network. Like, start small. Just get out there and start doing things. And you might be totally surprised with where you land after like a year of doing it if you stay consistent.
Yeah, perfectly said. Just be yourself. I always someone told me this, actually Brandon Turner told me this when he was on our podcast, and he was like, when you're on a podcast, just be you, but bigger. That's it. Yeah. So like, think about it that way. And
I should have worn that suit, Tim.
Yeah,
I would have been me, but a little bit.
A little bigger, right? Exactly. Well, you guys are awesome, man. I think I'm thankful to have met both of you because you can operate in the small sphere of Philadelphia for a long time and not meet the right people, or not, if you didn't create content. And we both did that, and that's how we met. So if people want to learn more about you, your story, you're doing development, you're insurance agent, there's so much. If you're in the real estate world, I feel like Tim and Sean are guys that you should connect with, especially if you're local, but even if you're not. So what's the best way for people to learn more about you guys, network, connect, etc.?
Podcast, if you just want to connect with both of us simultaneously, is bricksandrisk.com. We're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. We have a community on LinkedIn, so join any community or page that we're on. For myself, it's timgarrityteam.com. That gives you a sense of what I've done as an agent, leading people, helping people, creating content. All the links to everything I do are on that website, including my contact information.
Love it. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate you coming on. And Sean, maybe if you, for the insurance world, if people are listening.
Yeah, if people are dying to
get
get insurance stuff, Mooney Insurance Brokers, we're an Ambler. Get us online, mooneybrokers.com. And we got Facebook, Instagram, and all of that.
Love it. Thanks, guys. This has been awesome.
Corey, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Before we wrap this show up, I want to leave you with this. If you're listening to the show, chances are you're doing pretty well in your career. You're making maybe 6 figures. You're putting money into your retirement accounts, maybe stacking some cash in a brokerage account, but you're still waiting for that next level. And here's the truth. Waiting just costs you time. Every month you're on the sidelines is another month you could have had a property paying you and another step closer to financial freedom that you didn't take. Ryan and I know this because we stayed on the sidelines too long. We talk about this sometimes. We had the money, but not the guidance. And once we finally got our first property, everything shifted. It was the catalyst that built our entire portfolio and ultimately gave us freedom. And that's exactly why we built the Wealth Juice Inner Circle, to cut out wasted time, just give you the exact blueprint and surround you with a network of people who are closing deals every single week. So if you're tired of waiting and you're ready to finally get your first deal, click the link in the show notes and schedule a call with me. Let's map out your strategy and get you moving before another year slips by.